Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Keith Silva. At some point, every generation feels the need to leave the hustle and bustle of modern life, invoke the pioneer spirit, and get back to the land. Today's Back to the Lander doesn't need a wagon or a team of oxen, only the willingness and determination to be self-sufficient. When I met John and Kathy Turner, the words resourceful and independent quickly came to mind. At a time when life seems to have more and more distractions, these modern-day pioneers are teaching others how to live a more purpose-filled life, as I learned when I visited them last summer.
At Wild Roots Farm, everything has a use, and every one has a purpose.
For me, it's being able to utilize the land and its resources to support our family. And that's the only way I can really describe it.
John and Kathy Turner and their 2 sons live on 10.5 acres in Bristol. A portion of the food they raise is sold to restaurants. But that's not their main objective. The Turners are homesteaders. For many, homesteading conjures images of Little House on the Prairie, covered wagons, log cabins, and hardscrabble farming. Nostalgia for what's thought of as simpler times. For the Turners, this nostalgic viewpoint only goes as far as taking the lessons learned in the past and combining them with a vision for the future.
This is nothing new. This is no new technology that we're utilizing here. Maybe an old, 1980s compact tractor is the most of it, but everything else is for the most part done by hand and sweat equity. We live in a very small house. It's 700 square feet, and we have 2 kids and 2 animals that live in the house with us. And so it really helps you understand what is an actual need versus a want within your daily life. And being able to provide food for my family and food for my community, to be able to take that crop and bring it to a restaurant, it's a great feeling. It really is. And it's not just being hippies. It's not just being, back to the landers or being gruff, grizzly men or women for that matter, but it's really understanding, resilience.
I like being part of it. And by it, I mean all of it. We're not just making food, but we're creating an environment. And we're feeding the soil, and we're feeding the animals that come here. I like being part of the greater it. And I like that it matters. And I like that I can feel it in my bones that what we're doing matters and keeps us going.
Resiliency and self-sufficiency are 2 reasons for taking on the challenges for homesteading. For John, those qualities are tied to the pride he takes in the work and knowing where his food comes from.
I know what's going into my soil. I know the amount of care and kind of passion that I have for the food system in and of itself. And it just feels different. I think about my life before I got into agriculture, before I got into gardening or homesteading, and it was a lot different. And this has been a way for me to really understand who I am as an individual and how I can actually contribute to society. Anytime we have the opportunity to get together with our veteran friends, we can smoke and joke, as they call it, and just kind of tell stories and, see where each other's at and check in on each other, because that's what
Across the Fence first met John when he was starting the Vermont chapter of the Farmer Veteran Coalition, a nationwide organization helping servicemen and women find work in agriculture. After his service in the Marines, Turner started gardening, and at that moment, his life changed.
In 2009, we had our first garden, and it was a 10-foot by 15-foot plot. I had never touched the soil from an agricultural perspective prior to that moment. And I was 25 years old, 24 or 25 at the time. And when I put my feet into the soil, just something changed. It was instant, and I remember the day very vividly. And ever since then, I was just inspired to understand food and soil and to kind of get my life more centered around sustainability, and it just kind of happened that way. I served on 3 deployments with the Marines. I've seen some pretty harsh conditions, and I've noticed patterns in myself and in humanity that I can feel pretty confident in stating that those patterns exist because of a lack of connection to self or the landscape. So much of being in the service, being in combat is destructive, and to be able to come home and to nurture something, to tend to something, has a profound impact. It's something that I can honestly state that had I not made a reconnection with the natural world, I probably wouldn't be here.
Turner's agricultural knowledge is mostly self-taught, which fits with his personal code of self-sufficiency. But this belief is not at the exclusion of others.
I think it's the true meaning of sustainability and self-reliance, you know. But really, the other part of that too is empowerment. That's something I do believe that the homesteading movement, the Back to the Lander movement, is kind of bringing forth, is this greater sense of community. You're understanding what you can provide and what the other person can provide that you can't.
For the Turners, homesteading isn't about leaving the world behind. In addition to their restaurant sales, they also have off-farm income that helps get necessities the farm can't provide. The Turners see homesteading as a foundation for building community and contributing to society. They host workshops on various aspects of homesteading and small-scale farming. And John continues to work with veterans, which is how he met Anthony Hamilton.
I've been in Vermont for about a year and a half, and I moved here to participate in the farmer training program at the University of Vermont to learn about organic farming and farming on a small scale in a sustainable way.
Hamilton served in the Army for 4 years, including a tour in Iraq. So when John came to speak about veterans and agriculture to Hamilton's UVM farmer training class, Hamilton knew he was meeting someone he could relate to and someone who would understand him.
As I listened to him talk, I was just like, yeah, that's what I'm here to do too. Like that's awesome. We definitely need to collaborate. So after he finished giving his presentation, I introduced myself. It's been great to have somebody else with a similar goal so close by that we can collaborate with and work towards that goal of helping other vets realize their ambitions of homesteading or starting a small farm.
Thanks to Turner's encouragement and UVM's farmer training program, Hamilton rented land in Heinsberg and established Headwaters Farm. He doesn't think of himself as a pioneer, but Hamilton has tapped into the pioneer spirit of hard work and determination.
I started the vegetable production in what was previously a hay field, so I'm not clearing forest or anything like that, but it's definitely a bit of work in establishing it though. There's definitely that feel of breaking into new ground and making something where there wasn't something before.
The excess vegetables he grows, as well as the extra eggs he collects from his flocks of ducks and geese, he sells at the Richmond Farmers Market. Like Turner, Hamilton sees homesteading as a useful way of life.
So I think a lot of people see homesteading as a way to at least limit their impact and hopefully improve a small area. And rather than continue to contribute to things that are causing climate change or other food inequality issues, try to be, part of the push towards a change in the way food is produced. I think it's easy to kind of get lost in the competition of, having a good job and driving a nice car and living in the right town or the right neighborhood, and kind of within that losing a sense that what you're doing is meaningful. Whereas when the goal is feeding yourself or feeding your family, it's one that you can consistently be motivated towards and feel good about every time you accomplish it. Yeah, there's obviously something to be said for enjoying your work.
Those are going to go in this.
Turner says Hamilton's experience is similar to other would-be homesteaders he's worked with.
We have people who live in the city who come out from mushroom workshops, and they might go home and keep like a little bucket of compost and coffee grinds to grow some oyster mushrooms in. And for me, that's them taking the initiative to improve the quality of their life, because that's what farming does do. It's what homesteading does do. And if you don't have the space, if you don't have the 10 acres, maybe you have a pot or a window planter, and that's enough to keep you sane, you know?
The Turners love the lifestyle they've chosen. As for others, all the Turners ask is to try.
Is it for everyone, Kathy?
Yeah, I think so. I think that anybody with time and with some patience and understanding, I think it can be for everybody. I think it should be for everybody. I think it's a great way to wake up in the morning, and it's a great way to go to bed. I don't feel like I'm missing out on the world or what's going on around me. I feel like I'm getting more from the world by being part of this system than my previous life of waking up in an apartment and driving to work and coming back and ending my day that way. So I don't feel like I have a huge sacrifice, and I don't feel like it's a huge ask for somebody to try.
I like the idea of almost like being married to the land, you know, and to be able to go around and you see how different plants and trees interact based off, you know, climatic changes and weather patterns and all these things. And you see how the pastures improve based off of the chickens. And then you start thinking about that whole system and how it's relative to your livelihood. And for me, that's it. You know, that's the homestead. It's figuring out what's available and what we can apply to help us live.
Living life with a purpose. That's the goal. The use of Wild Roots Farm.
To learn more about the workshops and programs at Wild Roots Farm, visit their website on the screen. There you'll find links, contact information, and you can learn more about John's work with veterans. I want to thank everyone here at WCX for making today's program possible, and as always, thank you for stopping by Across the Fence.